Seriously?
Seriously. Something new. Hey, it's Margie with the Asking Spot. I've never used one of these, always wanted to, the scrapers, so I'm gonna give it a shot. Now, here's the only thing, kind of a problem. I'm gonna be using it on what I believe to be is a soft wood, and they always caution that it takes a bit of a learning curve, so you probably shouldn't use it on soft wood first.
Double foreshadow, eight shadow.
I'm pretty sure this dining room table is soft wood. It's because it's got a lot of little dings in it that it gets very simply. But here's my plan. This center piece of it, we never use it except for once in 5 years. And even then, we threw a tablecloth on top of it. So this is gonna be my perfect practice piece with this.
The irony.
Well, I kind of wish I had a different piece to test it out on, because I don't know how many layers of top coat might just be on this piece, but I certainly don't feel like I'm moving along as quickly as you see other people with these carbide scrapers. And so I'm like, am I doing something wrong, or could it be this piece? So next, I'm going to get out my trusty sander. And if that doesn't progress very well, that'll give me an indication, hopefully, that, yeah, it's the piece of wood I'm working on, not the scraper. And, if nothing else, I feel like the scraper got a lot of the layers of the top coat off, so there's that.
Yet an hour later,
And more than that.
There's more to it than that.
Well, some good news. It's not the scraper's fault. Bad news. It's not the scraper's fault. Yeah, it took a lot of sanding to get this, just the top part off. I'm not completely done. I've got the sides yet. And of course, this is just the center leaf to a dining room table. And there's chairs. So here's my thinking. I'm going to give this a shot. And if you saw my other video, you know that this is nothing to play around with. I'm gonna be doing it outside, still wearing a respirator, and I'm gonna be double gloved with rubber gloves, not the usual heavy duty gloves, because this eats right through them. If it becomes not too much of an issue, I will definitely do the rest of the sides of this, and I might do the rest of the table, but I kind of doubt it. It's because it's a full dining room table and chairs. And I'm thinking about something else I could do that wouldn't be as much work all the way around. We'll see.
the next day.
All right, so here we are. And I'm really pleased with the results. I got it thoroughly sanded. I did leave this area as a test area. I just gave it a light sand. I didn't obviously sand it down to this. But as much as I like this, it is yellow. I'm gonna try a whitewash on it first. How to make any container parts measurement. All you have to do is stick a piece of tape on it. I suppose you could write directly on it. Then put a ruler next to it and put the lines right. And there you have it. This technique is absolutely so forgiving that there are a lot of different ways to do it. I do like to use mine in a very watered down version of it. I've seen other people that put it on thicker and then spritz it. I think my friend Crystal from the Crafty Creech does that, and I think that's really cool. I just don't trust myself. I think when it's super watered down like this, it gives you more time to work with it. That isn't to say that, you should leave it puddling on the wood, especially if the wood like this one is a veneer. You could definitely mess it up that way. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the watered down chalk paint mix on here. And oh yeah, it has to be like a chalk paint or a mineral paint. It has to have something with a lot of pigment in it to work. It can't just be any paint to really do the trick. Although, I have never tried it, so maybe I'm wrong on that. Give that a shot. But the one quick thing I will point out though is, like, for instance, mine is very, very watered. So I'm going to keep brushing it until there aren't any puddles, and I'm trying to brush it so there aren't any brush strokes either. A big thing to keep an eye out for, though, is bubbles, because they will dry like little rings on it. The nice thing is, though, like I said, this thing is super forgiving. So if you put too much on an area you don't like it, you can sand it off. If you want to add more, of course you can. It's really super easy. I will say it dries more opaque than you think it does. So I usually don't leave mine on very long because I don't have any patience. Um, Pretty much it stays on for about a minute. You could go as far as, like, 3 minutes. I guess a lot of it though depends on your climate. I'm real humid, so wiping it off in a minute seems kind of like a rush. But if it's hot and on the dry side, that might be a little too long to wipe it off. But needless to say, when you do go wipe it off, if you wipe off too much, like I did there, add some more, no problem. If you wiped it off too late and it's too dark, sand it. You're good to go. That was a practice run. Now it's time for the real thing, the tabletop. That was so heavy.
I know the drill.
So even with all that work and all this scraping, you can still see a shine on that side. This side, not done. It's better, but yeah. Time to get out the tougher stuff. So in addition to being super strong and being able to eat through your usual heavy-duty gloves, this chemical also evaporates very quickly. So I have no idea what on earth is on this table, but even that chemical, I used an entire canister of it. Well, I mean, almost a full thing that I had left. And yeah, didn't work. Okay, so remember I mentioned that, I was warned about when you use these things, there's a bit of a learning curve? Yeah, there's the curve.
It does not look good.
It is time. I actually liked how it was going with this, and it was actually going at a pretty good speed. But come on now, that and all the smoke, not good. So, sorry, heat gun, not for this game either. So I won't bore you with my other attempt using the scraper because, yeah, I got another learning curve. Got out my trusty orbital sander, put an 80 grit sander on it, and I went to town, and it kind of went well. Sadly, this is a very mild burn through the veneer. But the technique, the whitewash I'm doing, will be able to cover that. Hopefully. And that's 120 for you. I really can't stand working with strippers, especially the ones that aren't low odor. But I really think the stripper I need is, these hardcore ones that come in a tin, just because this is a lot of poly topping on there. It's super thick. So yeah, I think I need to use this stripper.
Wrong again.
I'm seriously frustrated at this point. I think between the fact that this piece had the thickest top coat ever, and that I live in a climate that isn't conducive to strippers being allowed to stay wet and work as well as they should, I resorted to, the most classic technique of them all. All right, well, it wasn't quite that long. It just felt that long. It was several hours, though. Long day. Gave it another sanding, this time with a really high grit. It was a 220 grit because I figured, the paint wash is going to raise the grain. So I wanted to give it less to raise. That makes sense. I hope so. But yeah, what comes next. I waited just a bit. It isn't completely wet, but it's not completely dry. And instead of with the leaf where I ended up sanding it, this time what I did is to get those lines that it has in there cleaned out with the paint, I just simply wrapped, a piece of t-shirt around a credit card and slid that through. Then it was time for a water-based top coat, several layers, light sand in between, but, worth it. Forgive me, Megan Trainor, but it's all about that bass, about that bass, about that bass. No trouble. Oh, actually, some, but hopefully not a lot.